the pain of knowing what you need to do and telling yourself that you're going to do it, but for some reason, just end up not doing it. It's so frustrating being stuck in the same bad habits over and over again. And you know how to get out, but for some reason, it's just like you can't command your body to do it. But the worst part of it is, you used to do all of the good things. I mean, you used to read Quran every single day. You used to be timely with your prayers. But for some reason, you find yourself not doing the things that were bare minimum before. Look, bro, I want you to understand that this is something pretty much everybody faces. And in fact, the Prophet ﷺ talked about it. He said that for everything, there's a zeal, meaning a kind of a zest for doing it, that you want to do it. And for every zeal, there's a slackening. What that means is every single thing you're going to do, you're going to have ups and downs, and especially this relates to iman. And it's completely natural. So I want you to know, if you're stuck in this position where it feels like you did so good the previous month or the previous week, but for some reason your iman feels low and it feels like you just can't do the things that are so obvious and so easy to do, it's actually a natural part of your life. Like, it's not something super crazy or super weird. But in fact, this is something every single person will probably go through. But at the same time, you still need to have accountability. Because Allah says in the Quran that there does not come to you a calamity except that it is by your own hands. Now, this is actually such an important verse in the Quran, because at first glance, you might not really understand it. But what it's saying is every single thing that's happening in your life that you don't like, it's because of something you did. Even though your dips in iman are completely natural, they're because of something you did, because of some action you did, or usually because of some sin. Now you're suffering the consequences. And the scary thing actually is the sin's consequences might not happen right away. In fact, I've heard quotes of people talking about sins coming back to bite you 40 years later. So imagine that. Imagine a sin you did 40 years ago, or even just a year ago, comes back and only now you're feeling the consequences. Now when you think about it like this, you understand you have to take accountability. Yes, it's natural that your iman is going to go down. Yes, it's natural that you might be unproductive at times, but it's because of something you did. So you have a responsibility to fix it in your own life. Real quick, my name is Halim. I help Muslims go from losers to winners. Check out the topic in the description if you want to fast track your progress to success, inshallah. So listen, you might have not heard this message from anyone, but I want to tell you this because it will help you. You are not as good as you think you are. You have so many faults. And the truth is, the reason why you're suffering is because of your own actions. And you have to take accountability, because at the end of the day, the only person that's going to be there to change your life is you. Don't go and point fingers and blame other people and blame how hard your own life is and try and use that as an excuse to say why your iman is so low. Because Allah says that it's actually your fault. Now look, I don't want this to come off like super harsh or anything, but I just want to tell you the truth. If you understand this, you'll understand that everything is actually under your control. And that's one of the most powerful things you could understand. If everything is under your control, that means you can have high iman whenever you want, just by doing the right things. So here's one of the best things you could do, and one of the things that helped me so much is looking throughout my day and trying to be very critical and seeing where I might have fallen. Basically, you want to figure out this cause, the reason why your iman is low. And usually it's like a sin or something like that, but you want to be very critical. You want to have really high self-accountability and try and look at every single part of your day, from Fajr to the moment you sleep, and see where you might have slipped up. It might be, for example, that you're waking up for Fajr just a little bit too late. And if you fix that, everything in your life is going to be put back in order. You're going to have high iman again. But you won't get this unless you have that level of accountability. You need to understand that because it's your fault, you have to be critical of your own life and your own day. And on top of that, make sure you make dua to Allah and ask Him to make clear the cause of whatever problem you're having. Because a lot of times you might be committing sins and it might be destroying you and you don't even realize it. And one of the clearest signs is if you used to do something good. For example, let's say you used to read Quran every single day at the same time, but now you suddenly stop. This is one of the most clearest signs that you did something wrong. Maybe it's a sin, or it might actually be a permissible thing, but you just went overboard. For example, using social media, technically it's not haram, but if you went overboard, if you started using social media for like 4 hours a day, that's way too much, and Allah is telling you this is something you shouldn't do, so He's kind of punishing you in that way. And if you find yourself in this position where you were doing something good, but for some reason you feel like you just can't do it anymore, then that's a surefire sign that you should seek forgiveness as much as possible and as soon as possible. And that's actually the first thing and one of the most important things for the solution to this issue of having low iman or being inconsistent with it, is to spam your istighfar. Because your low iman is caused by some sin or some bad thing that you did, you want to make sure you spam istighfar so that Allah forgives you for whatever sin or whatever bad thing you did, and so that you could kind of rectify it. And so this is pretty basic and simple advice. I mean, you probably heard it, but try and make as much istighfar, in prayer and especially in sujood. The next solution is to do small actions, and specifically to make them small. Because the hadith I actually mentioned earlier had a second part to it. And that's that the Prophet ﷺ was talking about the fact that you need to be moderate in your religion so that you don't have low points in your iman. And if you're too overzealous with your religion and you try and do everything at once, that's one of the surefire ways to make sure your iman is inconsistent. So if you're in this position, try and do a little bit every day. Reciting Quran is one of the best actions you could do. So literally just recite a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be a lot. In fact, make it like one ayah. Basically start it off small and snowball it so you could get back into things and make your iman higher again, inshallah. And on top of that, do a variety of different things. Not just reading Quran, but also like charity, also being kind to people, talking to people, all of these different things. And all of these different avenues of good deeds will come together to rectify you of your position of low iman, inshallah. The next thing is pretty simple as well, and it's having a good environment. If you feel like your iman is low, quite possibly the fastest way to get it high again is just spend time with other righteous people. So if you have friends you could talk to or spend time with, or especially just go to the masjid, because you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to be surrounded with righteous people and you're going to pray together and all of those things. Also, in general, try and switch your environment up. Like a lot of people, for example, they'll have a messy room or a dirty room, and that actually causes a sort of spiritual illness where you feel like your iman is low and you'll also feel very unproductive. So sometimes it's as simple as just cleaning up your room and your space and trying to be more organized, and that's enough to bring you up spiritually. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention is that the Prophet ﷺ said that your iman will wear out like your clothes wear out. So you want to ask Allah continuously to renew iman in your heart. So there's a specific dua for asking Allah to renew your iman in your heart, and I put that up now. I'll put up a few extra du'as which are very beneficial. But in general, if you're in this position of low iman, try and spam as much du'a as possible, and inshallah you'll realize it's going to be a lot easier for you. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Don't forget to not stop making du'a to Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.